Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible clash from the Tech Mahindra Global Chess League. Again, we have two masters of the mystic arts, Rapport and Parham Maghsoodloo, and best I can describe their chess style is, I don't know, you know when you're walking down the street and you see a can of soda and then you just have to kick it? Well, similarly, when Rapport or Maghsoodloo see a possibility of a sacrifice, they must sacrifice a piece, two pieces, or even multiple pieces. That's how they play chess, and that's why we love watching their games. So let's see what happened in this one and who kicked the can. So Rapport with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c5. Parham goes for the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, d6, and bishop to c4. Sorry about that. We have knight to f6, so not countering the Sicilian in an open fashion with pawn to d4, but rather bishop to c4, very wild. Knight to f6, putting pressure on the e4 pawn, and now pawn to d3 defending. We have pawn to a6, preparing to kick away that light square bishop, and the a4 stopping b5. We have knight to c6 and castles kingside. And now there are a couple of games where pawn to e6 is played, but here pawn to h6, and it is now as of move 6 already that we have a completely new game. Knight to c3 by Richard and bishop to g4, pinning the knight. So okay, you probably have to worry about knight to e5 a little bit, or maybe you don't, but just in case, pawn to h3. Kicking away the bishop, bishop to h5 and knight to d5. An excellent square for the knight. e6, we have knight to f4, attacking the bishop, and finally bishop captures on f3. Richard captures and Parham goes after the light square bishop. So knight to e5, or rather, no, he doesn't. He could play it, but he doesn't. He prefers pawn to h5. While you could play this, I guess Richard is not worried about knight captures on c4. Then he would have, well, this very nice control over the d5 square, and Parham would be left with the permanent weakness that is the d6 pawn. So instead, we have knight back to e2. Now knight to e5. Okay, he goes for it now. Queen to e3. And again, he doesn't want to capture because of what we said about the d5 square. Instead, pawn to g5. He goes after Rapport's king. We have bishop to b3. Richard says, all right, you've squandered your opportunity away to capture the bishop. And now bishop to h6. g4 would be a bit more potent here. Richard would have to counter with pawn to f4 and then something like captures. And okay, it's still very nice. Richard would have the strong center, but Parham would have the open g-file to attack that white king. But instead he prepares it, bishop to h6, now pawn to f4, g captures and knight captures. And okay, the knight is pinned for the moment, but only for the moment. We have pawn to h4, queen to f2 unpinning, and now knight f to d7. Queen to e7 would be a bit more precise, but I mean, it's a crazy position. Who's to say what's more precise? Feel free to pause the video and try to find the absolute best move for Richard while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on paying attention and realizing that this is the position from the thumbnail. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is bishop captures on e6. Knight captures on e6 looks also very nice, but it just doesn't do all that much. I will show it because I know you guys are wondering. There's no threat here. Like you can just capture on c1, and even if bishop to f7, you can just move the king. So nothing is really happening here. You can go queen f8, and the black is now just winning. But after bishop captures on e6, things are not so clear. F captures, and now knight captures, going after the queen, and queen to b6. Queen to c8 is the top move for black here, but I mean, who plays such a move? Well, certainly not Parham. He goes queen to b6, now wishes to play c4 to trade off the queens, as he's now up material, and of course Richard does not allow this. Pawn to a5, attacks the queen, queen back to c6, and pawn to c3, preparing pawn to d4. Rook to c8, Parham just continues playing like nothing is happening, and pawn to d4. We have captures, and queen to c4. And now, okay, there are many moves to consider here, but what do you play here? The knight here is hanging. You could also maybe capture the knight on e5. How do you continue this? Well, one way to do it is definitely worth considering, and that is pawn to d5. You just keep the knight on e6. The problem with this move is that after bishop captures and the rook captures, Parham prepared this very nasty queen sacrifice. Captures, captures, and captures. And now after we move the king, Richard already sacrificed the knight, so now Parham would be just up too much material. He would have 2 rooks and 2 knights versus a queen and knight, which is of course much better for Parham. So instead, after queen c4, queen to f5, defending on e6, and now just putting pressure on that e5 knight. And now if you capture on c1, you don't have to capture back, you just capture back on e5, and now it's much more difficult. For example, now if you play rook a captures on c1, Parham would still have to give up the queen because the rook would hang. And now if you play captures, captures, and captures, now it's only 2 rooks and the knight versus a queen and knight, but the king is wide in the open. This is completely winning for white, however you play it. So after queen f5, knight to f8, offering some trades along the f file, and now queen to h5 with check. And now we have knight e to g6. You have to block check. Somehow knight e to g6 is played, as the knight on e5 was also hanging, but now it's time to drive the final nail in the coffin, and of course that is done by removing the defender of the g6 knight. So rook captures on f8. Now the knight cannot move, the knight is pinned. You have to capture either with the bishop or with the rook. Both is winning for Richard. Bishop captures on f8 is played. Now queen captures on g6 and king to d7. King to e7 runs into bishop g5 check, and well, a couple of moves and you're just gonna get checkmated. There's not much you can do here. King to b5 and queen captures on b7 will be checkmate. So after queen captures on g6 check, king to d7, and now pawn to d5. You could very easily miss the opportunity and blunder the game after, let's say, a check and then bishop to e7, and now you just have problems here. Now d5 doesn't work because queen captures on e4, and you're no longer the one attacking. So after king d7, d5 right away. And now how to continue, bishop to e7. You could also play queen captures on e4 here, but the queen is now defending the e4 square. So bishop to e7 and queen to f5. Now threatening some very nasty discovery. So king to e8, and now another beautiful move by Richard, bishop to g5. Point being that, well, there's no useful move for black, and if you play, let's say, any move, something like queen to e2, doesn't really matter, just rook f1, and there's no defense. Queen f7 is coming, that's pretty much it. Queen f7 followed by captures. So instead, he decided to capture on g5 right away. Queen captures on g5, and now queen captures on e4, but still just a nice rook to f1. And that's all there is. You could, well, maybe try some... you can, I mean, knight to g7 will be the end. If you play queen to e5 to maybe offer a queen trade, then you give up the g6 square, and then it's just queen g6, king d7, and queen to f7 checkmate. So Parham tried the sneakiest move we've seen in a long time. He played rook to c2. He just says, all right, if you move your queen to a weird square without giving check, I might checkmate you on g2. And also, as knight to g7 check was probably what Rapport was planning, or, well, depending on what Parham plays. But now if he goes knight to g7, then after king to d7, the c8 square has been freed up. And now after rook to f7 check, the black king escapes. Now you don't really have anything better. I mean, you're down the exchange. You will have to trade queens here and hope to survive this, even though it doesn't look great. So that was Parham's plan. You know, while he played queen to rook to c2. I don't think he was you know, expecting something like queen f6 and queen captures and g2 checkmate, but you never know. You know, you're desperate, you have nothing more to try. That's pretty much it. So he played this, but Rapport, of course, did not blunder, and neither did you. Of course, you are not missing queen to d8 checkmate. This is what Rapport played, and after a long time, we have actual checkmate on the board, which is something you don't see very often in Grandmaster play, as Grandmasters usually resign some 5 to 10 moves before checkmate occurs, sometimes 50 moves, you know, if you're in an endgame. So yeah, very nicely done by Richard. Like I said, when two of them play, there is zero chance that we will get a boring game. It's merely a matter of who decides to sacrifice first. Here, okay, Rapport had the white piece, so naturally he had the opportunity to sacrifice first, and he did. Beautiful game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. 33 moves of pure spectacle. And yeah, this a short story. Just this one time, I was playing in the Croatian second league. I was playing against an opponent. I think he was rated around 2270 ELO rating, and we were okay. There was an increment, but it was a really crazy position, and I was trying to flag him. He was trying to flag me. His position was better. And then I played a move that completely shook him. I sacrificed my rook, and he couldn't believe it because I really slammed the piece really hard into the board, and it really confused him. And he was like this. The time was running out, and he took the rook, and then I checkmated him. The problem is, at the moment when I sacrificed my rook, he was not in check or anything, and he could deliver mate in one. To me, he could have checkmated me in one move, but I confused him just enough with this, slamming of the piece, of the rook sacrifice that he captured, and then I checkmated him. So it's not really the same thing, but yeah, rook to c2. You never know what kind of an effect a move like this will have. It's worth a try. It's worth a try. Sometimes it will work, but most of the time it will not. But sometimes it will. So yeah, short story. Hope you didn't mind. I shared that with you. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Chess King 22, welcome Atlas Wilton, Jack Ingram, Ranko Jogashevic, Ivan Sterling, and Joost van Werd for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, such as this one, and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.